Hello and welcome to Karate Time. Good morning everyone, welcome to another episode of Karate Time. I know they've been a little bit sporadic lately, so I apologise for that. I must admit I've sort of hit a bit of a saturation point. I don't know if it's just that, we're only training online and I'm working and stuff, that I just find I'm struggling to think of... It's not that I'm struggling to think of topics, it's that I'm struggling to think of maybe interesting topics that I want to engage in. So on that front, if anyone's got any suggestions or anything they'd like me to cover, then please throw those out there, because at the moment any help is greatly appreciated. I think everyone gets to this stage at some point. You just get to a point, you're doing something, it's not that you're not interested, but you just get to a point where you just go, I can't think of anything. But fortunately today I have got a topic, and the topic today is the burden of proof. Now, what I mean by that is that we, as martial artists, make a lot of, I won't call them grandiose claims, but we do make a lot of quite firm claims when it comes to the benefits of doing martial arts. So just to throw a few off the top of my head, we've got psychological improvements, so we've got things like behaviour, we've got confidence, we've got discipline, what's the one I'm thinking of? When you analyse your own self-worth, can't think of the word. It's going to come to me, or not. Anyway, that one. I think you know what I mean. It's early, I'm still not quite with it yet. This is why you always have tea in the morning. And we also talk about the physical benefits, so you've got health benefits, you've got things like reduced weight, reduced stress, you've got maybe building up some body strength, core strength. You've got the classic obvious one, self-defense, the ability to defend yourself. If you can hear that on the camera, that's my cat moaning, because she has an obsession. Kirsty does horse riding, and the cat has an obsession with the riding whip, to the point where Kirsty had to store it in the wardrobe, because otherwise she would steal it. However, if you open the wardrobe, she'll get in there, she'll find it, she'll put this ginormous riding whip in her mouth and run downstairs with it. And Kirsty thought, well, maybe she won't be obsessed with it if I just leave it out one day. Came downstairs and she ripped it apart, so she's got another one now. But she still wants to get in the cupboard and find a new one. So yeah, if you hear random cat noises, sorry. Where was I? The self-defense element, of course. The self-defense portion of what we do is often paramount to our promotion. Now, what I mean by the reason the subject is the burden of proof is because it's all well and good us making all of these claims and making these statements, and we often will make these statements publicly. So they will exist in literature for advertising, posters, web posts, Facebook, blogs, whatever it is. They will form a justification of why we think people should be doing martial arts. And this is where the problem is that it's all well and good making these claims, but can we prove it? And this actually is quite a nice topic for me, actually, because it lets me draw on two areas of passion: martial arts and academia. Now, this is where I think martial artists can have a could expand their horizons a little bit, and that's actually getting involved in the field of academia in some way. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to become an academic and go and do things if you don't want to, but there is an increase in interest in the martial art disciplines within academic settings, and we could lean on that to try and get research done. There's already research there, but I think that a more active engagement rather than them reaching to us is possibly a way forward. So if we are going to make all these claims, it's up to us to prove whether they are true or false at the end of the day. But it doesn't mean we have to do it alone. We could do it with informed help, and this is where empirical research comes in. You have to be humble. I think it was Stephen Fry. He said that the thing that scientists have in common, good scientists, are that they are humble they are humble when confronted with the facts. So if you have a theory and you have a viewpoint, and you hold it very, very strongly, and then are presented with the facts that actually show the opposite of what you've said, then instead of ignoring that and sticking with what you think is the theory and just flogging a dead horse or beating your own drum, it's looking at that as an opportunity to say, okay, my theory was wrong. These are the facts. What's exciting about those new facts that we've discovered, and where can that take us instead? And I'm going to have a look at a couple of these claims that we make, and I'm going to start with the easiest one probably, which is the psychological side. I say easiest, it's not easy, but I think the psychological stuff would be good. So I've got some stuff here, so let's have a look. Right. Other people have studied this, and here's a good one. This is Lakes and Hoyt, published in 2004. It's called Promoting Self-Regulation Through School-Based Martial Art Training. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through the entire academic paper with you, but the good thing is that the abstract will provide you the details you need. So, the impact of school-based Taekwondo training on self-regulatory abilities was examined. A self-regulation framework including 3 domains, cognitive, affective and physical, was presented. So they had 207 children from kindergarten through to grade 5, randomly selected to go to either an intervention group, which is the martial art group, or a comparison group, which was a traditional physical education group. Outcomes were assessed using multi-dimensional, multimodal assessments, don't worry what that means. After a 3-month intervention, results indicated that the martial art group demonstrated greater improvements than the comparison group in areas of cognitive self-regulation, affective self-regulation, pro-social behaviour, classroom conduct, and performance on mental math test. A significant group gender interaction was found for cognitive self-regulation and classroom conduct, with boys showing greater improvement than girls. Possible explanations of this interaction, as well as implications for components of martial art training for the development of self-regulation in school-aged children, are discussed. Anyway, so the important things to take out of that are, after 3 months, one group doing martial arts, one group doing a physical education group, there was enough across 207 people, there was enough to of a significant change to recognise changes in essentially all the things that we say. Improved social behaviour, better classroom conduct, even better improvement in things like mental maths, so that engagement there. And the important one here was cognitive and affective self-regulation. So it's the ability for the person to take more ownership of their own practices, which is fantastic. This proves, I've got it here, peer-reviewed journal article. It proves everything that we've said. Great. The only problem is that theirs, of course, isn't the only study. I'm going to go to another one here. I can't speak this morning. Social psychological outcomes of martial art practice among youth, a review. So again, I'm just going to look at the abstract here. This is for Verdonken and Theboom, I believe it's pronounced. I think they're Dutch. Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. This was a 2010 paper, so more recent. Okay, so what they did was they actually mentioned essentially what I said. That they've said here that martial arts involvement among youth is described in controversial terms. Studies regarding the effects of martial art practice on youth show contrasting images. While some refer to enhanced personal and social opportunities for those that participate, like the last paper, others warn against increased levels of aggressiveness and antisocial behaviour among its participants, equally valid concerns. The aim of the present review is to provide, firstly, an overview of the major findings of studies concerning the social, psychological outcomes of martial art practice. Secondly, the limitations of those studies are discussed. And from more than 350 papers collected during a 2-year literature study, 27 papers met all the criteria to be included in the study. This review revealed that even though a considerable amount of research on social psychological outcomes of martial art practice has been conducted over the years to date, it has not brought clarity in existing duality regarding the possible effects of martial arts involvement. It's proposed that a better understanding can be provided if specific influential factors are taken into account in future research. This is where we come in. Participants' characteristics, type of guidance, social contacts, and structural qualities of the sport. So this is essentially what I'm getting at. They are saying that it doesn't always work. It doesn't work as cleanly as we discuss. And it may not actually have anything to do as such. Maybe the martial art itself is a very minor part of what creates those benefits. It's not to say that that structure that is created through martial arts is not important, but I often think that it's the characteristics of the people that choose to go to martial arts is an important factor, and also the characteristics of the instructor, the guidance that they receive when they're there, the culture that exists within the group. As it says there, the social context. So there's a lot more to it, because arguably you could get all these benefits from any sport activity as long as you've got the right type of leadership and environment that's there, and essentially the right, almost the right type of people, if I can put it that way. So that's it. The burden of proof rests really with us. If we're going to make these claims, I honestly think we should be able to justify and back them up in some way. It doesn't mean that you can't fervently believe something based on your own experience. There's nothing wrong with that. Your experience is a valid argument, but the ability to actually study it and have evidence for it is, I think, far better. Which brings me on to the second part of burden of proof, which I'm going to keep much shorter. And this is, how do we prove that it works for self-defense? Now, the thing is, from an empirical research point of view, the easiest way to determine whether it works for self-defense is to train somebody up to a decent level in martial arts and then send them out into fights. Stick them in dangerous situations and see if they come out alive. Exactly, you can't do that. No, it's an idea. No, you can't do it. No, don't do it. No, but actually, this is the point. There are martial arts out there. Krav Maga's one, Sistema's another. And they talk about them being ultimate self-defense or battlefield tested and so on. Prove it. Just because you have people who learn it at a high level and take it to those environments, does that say something about their training? Does their training reflect what you train Joe Public? That's the point you have to discuss. It's a little bit like someone who can handle a firearm. Okay, if you can take a firearm down a range, shoot a pistol or a rifle or whatever it is on a target to a high level, great. Can you do that in a battlefield situation? Not necessarily. So military combat training would be different to just general firearms training, because there is different factors, there's different stress levels. It doesn't mean that the skills aren't transferable, but you have to, if you're going to put burden of proof when it comes to self-defense training, the only thing we can really do that keeps our students safe is to stress test those skills in the training environment. This may involve things like padding up to quite a high degree, for your own safety, gum shields if it's head guards and whatever, and essentially having a scrap to see if it works. It does mean that you'd have to do this with high level practitioners. They'd have to be aware of the dangers. But if you're going to if you're going to argue that they work in self-defense, the problem we have in the martial art environment is what we lose in self-defense is the chaos of a real world situation. We're too orderly. It's not. I'm not saying that's a problem, but because we are an ordered environment and we are a controlled environment, you lose so many factors that would actually be necessary for the self-defense environment. And the simplest example I can tell you is just look up online two things. Just go on YouTube and search for two things: women's self-defense and knife defense. And the crap that you will see on there is, they'll say, right, okay, so this person comes at you and stabs you with a knife. So while they're doing that, I'm going to block here, I'm going to hit to the head, I'm then going to reach over and grab hold of the knife, I'm going to rotate, I'm now going to hit with the elbow. What are they doing at the same time? And this is the problem. It's not to say that those different techniques and things they're talking about aren't useful, but can you pull them off in a high stress environment at speed while the other person is not being compliant? And that's where burden of proof comes in there. Stress test your training, put people under pressure, put them into scenarios where they're not going to be comfortable and they don't have the option of clean, perfect technique all the time. And I think that's the only way you can really do it beyond sending someone into an actual dangerous situation. That's my topic for today. Burden of proof. I'm going to enjoy my cup of tea before it goes cold. And I got to think of a topic for next week now. So if you could, if anyone could think of anything, throw it at me. Please do. Leave a like and comment if you can, and if you enjoyed it. And thank you very much. Take care, everyone. I'll catch you next time.